Welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Anchored at Harbor Park, episode 3, we're here. Okay, icebreaker time. What is your favorite what is your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is blue. And I don't know why. I don't know. It's bright, it's cheery, it's fun. Makes me think happy stuff. And obviously it's one of our primary colors.
Well, you guys see me wear purple all the time. So
yeah, I knew that
purple.
one.
Yeah, that's not going to be anything.
But why?
I don't know. I've always loved purple since I was little. Like anything. I just think it goes well with my skin tone. I don't know.
Jason?
For the third week in a row, David has stolen mine. Mine is also blue because it's very tranquil, relaxing, water. Yeah, it's a good color.
Nice.
Maybe one of these weeks you should go first, so David can't
So yeah, next
it.
week I'll go first, so you can't steal mine.
Let's talk about, real quick, Corian's outfit and why.
Oh, if you guys are watching, we're standing today. I think this will help with the microphone things.
Yeah, we want to try not to be so... We want to bring down the echo-ness of the gym.
Let's be honest, we talk all the time about people getting stand-up desks for work. Why wouldn't we have a stand-up desk? So.
That too. I don't like sitting.
No.
I don't like to sit. All right, let's get into it.
Cool, nutrition. So last week we talked about mindset in a very broad sense. We're going to do the same thing about nutrition today. We're talking about it in a broad sense. There's so much we could talk about.
Yeah, please keep me on point. Otherwise, I will go on tangents for days.
So we'll probably break all this stuff down into their own separate episodes in the future. But we're just going to start with our own personal stories about how nutrition has impacted us, our process through learning it and all that good stuff. So when do you guys want to jump in?
Let's start with Corian. I think her story is a little bit more interesting.
Oh, God. So nutrition and I were not always friends, not at all. So a couple funny stories. Me and nutrition were so opposite, and I hated cooking and food so much that for a wedding present from my best friend for our wedding, she got me a cookbook, and it's from the 1950s, and it's 5-minute microwave meals.
I don't think we've ever made a meal out of that.
No. But that's the epitome of
right.
What I knew is I didn't know how to make food, and everybody knew I wasn't going to cook for Dave. So, and then the other thing is when I first moved out on my own, my quote-unquote cookbook was a 3-ring binder with every takeout menu from everywhere in Kenosha.
To be fair, I'm reading the 4-Hour Chef by Tim Ferriss right now, and one of the biggest thing he brings up is that all the cookbooks today are they make no sense in terms of practicality. It doesn't make sense to make 8 chicken recipes that there's no progression to it. There's no logic to it. They're written for editors, so it's easier for them to produce versus easier for someone to use. If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Odin's on my feet. But yeah, I actually, when I saw you post that you were reading that, I found that we had gotten that book from Dave's brother 2 years ago for Christmas. So I started it too. I like it so far.
Yeah, it's actually about how to learn, not necessarily how to cook. But
yeah, absolutely.
He uses cooking as teaching you how to learn.
Yeah, so that was how I got my adult start on nutrition. So that's, like I said, I didn't cook. I ate out all the time. I had no idea what healthy eating was. And still did it until we found CrossFit. And it took a couple months of doing CrossFit before I was like, well, what can I do to get better? And so we started eating healthy. Well, healthy meant bagel thins instead of bagels, or pretzel chips instead of potato chips. And it just really, like I said, I think last time, really wasn't changing anything for me. I wasn't seeing any of my body fat change, and I wasn't seeing my workouts getting any better. And so over time, we tried a few things. First we went paleo, we did zone, We did macro counting. We did a lot of different things. And I think that, again, everybody gets overwhelmed because there is so much to choose from. You got to find what works for you. And eventually I just found that healthy eating, which we'll get into later, and not counting macros and not stressing about life and just finding a happy balance has worked really well for me. I think these last 6 to 8 months has gone pretty well. And you gotta think, I've been doing CrossFit for almost 4 years, and I've now dialed my nutrition in the last 6 to 8 months.
Yep.
So
It's a process.
it is a process, and it's gonna change. I'm sure once I get to another point, I'm gonna have to change it up again. So, but that's what I've gone through.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dave, you want to go? You want me to go?
Mine's pretty similar to Corian.
I was gonna say Jason should go so Dave doesn't steal it.
But yeah, let's have Jason go.
Okay. So, I'm Italian.
Yay!
We like to eat a lot of food, specifically bread and pasta. That's pretty much what we eat. So, growing up, that's what we did. We ate a lot. I could tell you, I could take an entire episode giving you stories about like my childhood at grandma's, and like an actual thing that happened is we'd sneak into her pantry and eat food without her knowing.
I could see you doing that.
So,
I'm sure she knew, and she kept food in there for you.
well, like me and my cousin, I have a ton of cousins, and like we'd be on the lookout. And like, grandma's coming, get out. Big deal. So, pretty much childhood through high school. And in high school, I played lineman. I played football as a lineman. My mindset was I need to get big so I can, push people. I ended up getting to 300 pounds, actually like 305 pounds. So I was huge. I didn't care at all what I ate. I ate everything that was in front of me. I think part of it was my childhood. Like grandma would yell at us if we didn't clean off our plates because there's poor people who didn't get to eat, so if we threw anything away. So I got this ingrained in my head that I had to eat everything in front of me. So I got up to 300 pounds in high school. My dad, at that point, after football was over, said he would give me $10 for every pound I lost.
Ooh.
And I'm, 18 years old, broke, and I was like, oh, I could lose like 100 pounds, and that's $1,000.
You're 18 and broken now. You're how old and we're still.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's a different story. But so here I am. I'm 18. My dad gives me this deal. I was like, sweet. Like, I'm done with football. I don't have anything to do. I'm just gonna lose weight. So I went on the South Beach diet, which is basically, super limited carbs for a few weeks, and then you introduce just like whole grains and stuff. I dropped 50 pounds in a few months based on no carbs. So that's a strategy, a short-term strategy that we'll get into a little bit. And then that kind of opened my eyes up into the whole world of, dieting and all this stuff. In college, I played around with a lot of different stuff. I didn't realize it was macro counting, but I ended up doing that. I think I found it in Men's Health or something, calculated what my macro should be, and I'm a huge finance guy and spreadsheets and stuff, so I mapped out my diet and how many carbs I needed, how many proteins, and how many fats.
You love the numbers.
Yeah, and so this was 2010, so it was before it was a big thing. I had been doing a little bit. Was there MyFitnessPal back then? I'm not sure.
I would know.
It definitely wasn't as good now. You had to manually input everything. You couldn't just scan
Did you
stuff.
make yourself a spreadsheet?
Yes, I did.
Through Excel?
Yes, yep.
I could see it.
I think I still have it.
And if everybody who's listening knows Jason, Jason is a spreadsheet guru.
I love them.
He's teaching me how to use Excel.
Yeah, so when we we usually make spreadsheets out for the gym. We usually turn to Jason. Jason, fix the formulas.
They speak to me. So, anywho, back in college, I figured out, I didn't know it wasn't this big whole macro deal that it is now, but I ended up doing it. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't really remember from 2012 to 2013, I think I was still cognizant of it. I was eating healthy because I had been doing that. I don't think I was as strict at all. I was doing endurance running. So I was down to 200 pounds at this point. So I had lost 100 pounds, but I was like chubby skinny. I didn't have any muscle.
Yeah.
It was just like, those like the endurance people.
They say skinny fat.
Right, yeah. And then in 2013, got back into CrossFit, or didn't get back into it, but I found CrossFit. Got introduced to paleo, started doing paleo, and then the whole macro thing like blew up in like 2014, 2015, and
You were like, hey, I know that.
yeah, I was like, oh, I've been doing that. And so then it was really easy for me to jump back into it. And then I've been doing that since, and in November I started doing Zone, because CrossFit teaches you that, so it took me 5 years to actually try it, and I love it now, so.
Good. To be honest, like we did Zone 2, and I think that it works really well. I will say I think Zone works better for men than women. Just on like,
I can
the
see
results
that.
I've seen.
And here's the other thing. So I eat the same exact meal every single day, or like same breakfast every single day, same lunch every single day. I was eating the proper amount of food to be Zone. I wasn't eating it in the right ratio. Like I had a little bit too much protein in my late lunch, not enough in my early breakfast. So all I had to do was shift kind of some of the intake, but I was already like eating the perfect amount of food. I just had to shift
Where it was.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy in that sense.
Awesome.
Yeah, the Zone diet and I've done nutrition challenges where I've helped people, and I've taught them the Zone, and I've seen some amazing results with it.
But as we'll get to in a little bit,
Yeah.
it's kind of at like the tail end of the
There's
nutrition
a lot,
progression.
There's
It's
a lot
a little
of
bit more advanced.
Just like everything, there's a progression to a pull-up, there's a progression to nutrition.
That is the best thing I think I've ever heard about nutrition. I'm going to use that.
Yep.
Because I try to explain to people, like, majority of people cannot just jump to these big things. And I always try to explain to them they're like building blocks. But I really like that idea of seeing it's a progression.
It's a progression.
Yeah, it definitely relates well to like what we do in the gym. It's, you don't just jump on the pull-up bar and do a pull-up unless you have background in fitness.
Or a 200-pound snatch. I mean, you got to work to it.
Or your Dave Yandel who walks into CrossFit and does a strict muscle up.
But hey,
But he didn't have the base, and he ended up getting some injuries from it. So.
So Dave, let's talk about your.
Mine, I don't really have a crazy story like you guys. So my family, we talked about this last episode, has a lot of health issues. So to me, as I grew up, I did not want to have those health issues. So I got into a gym back when I was 12. And that's when I started just really, I was just a normal gym, just lifting, running, not really knowing what I was doing, but thought I knew what I was doing. And then, but looking back on my nutrition habits, completely different than I'm doing now. And that's, so maybe the past 3-4 years, it's really changed. And that's what I want to talk about is the misinformation that's out there. I thought, I'm eating healthy because I'm having a lot of whole grains, I'm eating low-fat food, everything that says low-fat, and that's what the food industry preaches and teaches us.
I will blame myself for Dave being unhealthy for a while because he was actually super fit when we met, and I wasn't. So I would eat whatever I wanted. I would just like entice him. I'd be like, let's just go eat and drink all the time. And so after we got married, we both packed on a few pounds, and I feel really bad because I feel like that was 100% me.
I mean, whatever.
Live and learn, right?
Still gotta live, but learn from it, like Jason just said. But so that was my thing. I had it backwards. I thought I was doing great, eating. Now I'm, if I were to look at it and break it down, I'm eating probably 80-90% carbs all day.
Right.
Because you think you're eating. I'm eating this low fat, 100 calorie pack, and then I'm eating this whole grain bread and oatmeal and. I'm great, but if you really break that down, if we're talking about macros, then I'm probably about 80%.
Right, and that's the issue. It took you 4 years of learning what the heck you're doing to figure that out.
Right.
Versus a lot of people, they go off what they hear on the internet or the news.
Right. So then, like I said, my family had some health issues. Get a blood test at, I think I was 25, and it's like your blood levels are off, and I'm like, shoot, I'm going to be going down that same road of high blood pressure,
And it's amazing because you were still in the gym, so it's
Right.
not like you weren't working
So
out.
then, of course, you get the doctors who are like, oh, it's just hereditary. And I refused to believe it, and I started researching it and realizing that's when I was like, need something different. So back in about 2014, that's when I really started finding CrossFit, and
Yeah, that's when you guys joined, yeah.
Yeah, Corian and I.
And we met Jay.
Yeah.
I just wanted, yeah, that's how we met.
I had to coach these two for a while,
I'm sorry.
way back in the day. I don't really remember it too much.
I think I was pretty quiet back then, for once in my life.
Yeah. But I remember, so I was like, hey, we saw, I was looking into CrossFit because I wanted something different. I heard great things about it. I was getting bored with the routine, and I wanted something different. So that's when we found CrossFit. And then when I found CrossFit, hearing other members being healthy and, hitting these PRs and numbers, then you start, you're like, well, I want to do that. So I started researching. The first thing I started with was Zone. Zone was really good for me. I leaned out pretty dramatically, saw increasing gains pretty quickly, but I've switched from Zone, and now I'm just strictly macros, but I still follow Zone in the fact that my carbs every day are 40% of my daily intake, 30% protein, 30% fat. So I switched from just being Zone in blocks into now tracking and just making sure that my numbers throughout the whole day are
So
that
it's
40,
not-
30, 30.
It's
So-
not the 4 meals, but kind of more spread out, or
Correct.
or
Yeah.
maybe condensed.
So and before probably wasn't eating enough. Being on third shift too, that was tough. So you're on third shift. I never really was a fast food guy though, so that was good. But that was the hardest part, was when I first started CrossFit, I was on third shift, and then it was like, well, I got into Zone, and now I have to figure out how I'm going to eat, because I want to eat my certain numbers, and then I have to sleep during
Right,
the day.
that's a whole other episode is like non-standard work schedules.
I was going to say, yeah, I think it makes a big difference, and I didn't ever think it did until we quit. But shift work I feel bad for those that are like talking to me, and they're like, hey, I just don't feel like it's working, but they work these like nurses who work 12, 14 hours, 4 days a week, and then 3 days off or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, but your body's not recovering, and it's not getting the other things it's needing, so your nutrition is just going to suffer.
Right.
I mean, you really
or
have to be-
stress. I mean, you
Yep.
could be eating perfect, but if your hormones are off because you're
Yep.
stressed, then it's essentially like you're eating poorly.
And when you get stuck late, like I would get stuck late all the time. So then, regardless of how many calories I had, now in order to stay up when you've already been up for 24 hours, you just have to eat, because your body's like, I need something.
That's energy, right?
So again, another topic, but it does make a big difference.
So then from my low-fat diet into, all carbs, I started realizing and treating my body, I say it all the time, and I know members here do hear it, is treat my body as a race car.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I'm competing every day. I'm in the gym, and I want to operate at peak performance.
Let's change. You're performing every day.
Yes.
Okay.
Not
I'm
competing.
performing every day. I'm competing every day against myself. So I want to get better. I want to do well for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see improvements there, and so starting to look at food as that's the fuel that I'm putting in my body. So how am I fueling my body? And I want to make sure that fuel is high grade.
Right.
So I want to look at fruits,
Premium.
vegetables, nuts, seeds,
I always
proteins.
follow mine.
So I follow strictly, I do the 40, 30, 30 zone to a point, and I also incorporate that with Greg Glassman's, eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit.
Little
It's like we're in
stars,
church.
no
We're in
Yeah.
church here. Reciting.
No sugar. So I take all that out, and then I incorporate paleo into that. So
We're like 90-10 on that. To be
Yeah, I mean,
honest.
you gotta
There's a
live
couple.
liberal.
I'm more, but there
Yeah.
are days where I have to live, and I tell people that all the time.
I'm totally coming
You do
over
have to
and
live.
stealing some of your wine, by the way.
Today is St. Patrick's
I'm
Day.
out of
Today is
wine.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, so we are indulging. This is not going to be.
But actually,
some in there.
I tell people wine is paleo.
Yeah.
So I make a
that's
better choice there.
Yeah.
All right, so we got off on tangents.
That's one of the things I tell my members is it's not always about making the best choice when you're starting out. It's about making a little bit better
Right,
choice.
so that's progressions.
Here's a
Yep.
tangent to the tangent. Tim Ferriss, who's like one of the most popular podcasters in the world, frequently does his podcast.
Pretty soon to be the second.
Right, yeah. He does his podcast while drinking wine, so
I like
we're
that
just
guy
learning
even
from the
more now.
best.
This is for you, Tim.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on
So-
to our next topic here, Jim.
Yeah, we're going to kind of talk about this nutrition progression that we brought up. And we're going to go from like basic, how everyone starts, and then all the way to the end of the progression, which is more advanced stuff.
Can we say how everybody should start? Because we've all learned and kind of mess these progressions up. This is how I should have started.
Right.
Let's talk. I would like to see, let's say, so somebody comes into the gym, and what is within their first 3 months,
Got it.
their next topic
Okay,
is
right.
like, hey,
Right.
I want to talk about nutrition because now I've got my, I'm seeing gains in the gym, or I'm
Right.
feeling great. Let's
So,
talk nutrition.
yeah.
So let's talk about that.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Assuming like you aren't a CrossFitter's child and like they instilled good nutrition habits in you, right? So like the majority of people this day, not many people are this in depth with their food, but so most people start with the seafood eat food diet. Basically, they have no concept of good nutrition. Whatever's in front of them, they eat. Fast food because it's easy. Chips and candy because it's cheap. That kind of stuff.
I think cheap is a big thing.
Right, cheap and easy. Whatever's in front of you, you eat.
Here's my argument on that. I have pointed out to numerous people that eating healthy is not expensive. The difference is when you pre-plan your food, you're spending more up front, but the cost per snack or per meal is always lower than when you eat crap.
That's very true.
Just throwing that out there.
But essentially what this first progression is just not having any concept of better is whatever's in front of you eat.
I agree, and I think that as a new member, maybe your first, couple months into CrossFit, you start feeling like, I work out really hard. These workouts they kick my butt. I sweat a lot. So now I can reward myself by going to the fast food.
I'm not going to name her, but I saw that. Someone posted like a Frappuccino Grande thing for their birthday, for working out on their birthday. And I was like,
it was a birthday, so we'll give them that.
But
yes.
Like, oh no.
That would be better than like a birthday cake, I think.
No, those Frappuccinos have some pretty high calories and sugar
Well, yeah,
content.
but cake does too.
That's true.
So,
So maybe it's a better choice.
it's a liquid cake is essentially what it is.
But that's, I think, very common
Right.
in the beginning.
So
It's
you
like-
don't deserve those things because you worked out.
Right, and I tell people in consultations, I'll say you can't out-exercise a bad diet.
Yeah.
So I try to get people to reward themselves in other ways for working out. Why is food a reward all the time? Let's reward ourselves with a trip or a manicure or a new outfit because we're losing weight. We need them.
Yeah.
So,
Or a Harbor Park gear on our new Harbor Park.
I was going to say
apparel.
backstart.
Either or.
But let's start switching why is food have to be
Yeah, I
a
love
reward?
that. Yeah.
Switch it to something else.
I like it, yeah. Get it off the food.
Yeah.
Or I always say, like, hey, you still have to live. Today's St. Patrick's Day. We're going to go out with our members later and watch the pipes and drums.
Have some green beer.
Yeah, I mean, you can indulge in one. You don't have to go over the top with it.
We don't have
if
to
it's your
get
birthday,
sloshed.
enjoy the Frappuccino, but understand that, okay, that's my cheat.
Right.
Or that's my reward, as opposed to some people will get to the weekend, they'll sabotage the whole week because it's like, well, it's Friday or Saturday and Sunday, and they don't give any care to
Right.
it. And then Monday I'll go back to the gym and then I'll work it all off. Well, you just ruined all the gains you just made through that previous week, and now you got to start fresh.
Right. We're going to get into this at a later point, but like working out at the gym is not to burn calories. That's not what we do here. We work out in the gym to get better at body functions.
Yes.
We want to improve our flexibility, our mobility, our functional movement, being able to pick things up from the ground, put overhead, whatever it is. Increase longevity.
Our accuracy.
Right, all the 10 traits of an athlete. Nutrition is what we do to lose weight. We do not work out to lose weight.
Correct.
Yeah, and I would think one of the biggest misconceptions, because I see this all the time, I don't know who made up MyFitnessPal. I'm not trying to call them out, but I like to talk to them because you cannot log a 30-minute walk and say it's 900 calories, okay? Didn't happen. It's not how it works. So the problem is I think there's a big misconception too on like how many calories are being burned here.
So let's talk about that. If you're logging in MyFitnessPal, you just log your food, you don't log your workout.
Yeah.
Because the MyFitnessPal is then going to tell you can eat more food.
And then you just...
And if you do, if you log like a strength session, so say you did squats for 30 minutes, it says 0 calories. Which obviously we know as fitness professionals is you're going to burn, it's probably going to be like 200 calories, but then you're going to burn another 300-400 over the next 24 hours.
While your muscles are rebuilding.
So.
Absolutely. But I think that I've seen people walk their dog for 15 minutes, and then, yay, I get a whole donut that's 400 calories. I'm like, no.
Right.
It's not how that works. But,
so let's move on to what is clean eating, Jason?
Well, okay, so people start with see food, eat food.
Yep.
And then they come to the gym, they're around healthy people. Everyone's talking about nutrition and improving it. What's the next step? Is clean eating.
Right.
Okay, so we just want to start getting rid of the junk.
Correct.
Getting rid of the soda, getting rid of the processed food, try to eliminate like candies, sweets, the typical like the 100-calorie packs that we've mentioned.
So everything you just mentioned, what's the underlying ingredient in all those things? Sugar is the enemy, processed sugar. So if we're going to have sugar, we want to do healthy sugar, so honeys. And if we're going to do honey, we're going to do all natural honey.
the best part about once you start cutting out sugar and then you start making like your own, because I'm a firm believer that if you want that dessert, you can have it, but I make you make it.
Yep.
So
Okay.
you have to make it in order to eat it. So first of all, then you're gonna have real ingredients. Second of all, how often are you gonna make cookies? You're not gonna make them every day, to eat them every day, right?
We could.
So, but as
I do like cookies.
I do. But they still take time.
Mm-hmm.
So as you start building on that, and you start cutting out that processed sugar, when I bake and I use honey or maple syrup, that's really just in there for a sweetener, and you can start like downsizing that because you're like, oh my God, this is so sweet.
Yeah.
And you can start not using as much. Like I look at cookie recipes now and they're like a whole cup or a cup and a half of sugar, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like I can't.
But
Right.
clean eating might be confusing to some people. So, Jason, like if you're gonna do clean eating, like explain that. Like how would I shop for clean eating? Like I think if like my brother was confused and thought he was eating great, he was on the same line. But how would you teach me if I was brand new?
For clean eating, I wouldn't necessarily like try to have someone eat, like tell them to add stuff. It would typically be take away bad stuff.
Right.
Or you could like eat more salads type stuff, like more greens.
I was gonna say I go the other
More
way
veg.
with
Yeah.
my members.
So Corian, what do you think?
I tell them I don't want them to focus on the negative and what they have to give up. So we're not giving up this food. I want you to incorporate better foods because what's going to happen? They're going to get full. They're not going to eat those other foods because they don't have the time.
Yep.
So you can have those cookies, you can have those sweets, you can have that pasta, but I want you to incorporate more fruits and veggies and protein, and then they find that they're not as hungry for the other stuff. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah. I mean, processed sugar just goes in your body, and the only organ in your body that can use it is your brain. And when your brain wants more, it's going to tell you it wants more, so that's why you have those cravings. And
I think it depends on the person too. Like some people do well with telling what not to have, and some people do
Right,
well
that's true.
not dwelling on
Yeah.
the negative.
Yeah.
So you just got to find what it is that works for you.
so my thing, if I were to tell somebody clean eating, and they're like, well, what is that? I think I am eating clean. And if I break it down and I tell them, so you stick to the outside grocery or the aisles of the grocery store, and everything that would spoil within 7 days is technically a food that is good for you, nutritious, and has some value. The foods that would sit in your cupboard for several months, years, and not expire, not spoil, those are the ones that have the preservatives in it, the stuff that we don't want.
Someone told me they went on a trip and they had bread, and they're like, oh, I just got like white bread, and it was just from the store, and it was on their counter, and they left for a vacation, and they came back, nothing wrong with it. There was no mold, no
Right.
nothing, and she was like, uh-oh, this is not good.
Right. Like if you leave for a week, your bread should be very moldy.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Dave and I leave on vacation, our house is so empty. we have no food in it because it's going to go bad before we get back. So that's a good way to think.
Yeah. So then that brings us, after we mastered that part of slowly removing the bad stuff, which I talk to people about. The first thing I want to do is find out how much soda. That's the first thing I ask, is how much soda do you drink? And I think of it as progression. So like that's the first step. If I can take one thing away, I want to start eliminating that soda, that sugary drink.
So the American Heart Association, they say like the daily intake of sugar should be like 25 grams, maybe like 30, around there. So that's after lobbyists have paid them to give a number. So in reality, it should be like 10 to 15 grams. Like one soda, one can of Coke has like double the American Heart Association's.
Do you know that sugar is the only thing that doesn't, on a nutrition label, doesn't need a percent of daily value? Because they have lobbied against that percentage. Like, what does that tell you about sugar when they're the ones that are spending the most amount of money? Like you said, they've already paid them to put a higher number.
You know, it's really interesting. I heard this, I think, from one of our members told us. Sugar was brought to the United States because it was used to feed cattle. Because it's super cheap and had a ton of calories.
That sounds like wheat.
And, well, so the cattle didn't eat it.
Oh.
And then like, well, we have all this extra sugar, what are we going to do with it? And they found out that we love it, and they started putting it in everything.
Yeah. That's the same with like...
I have no idea if that's true or not. That is what I was told.
It sounds right. I mean, I know that the sugar cane fields are big in Jamaica when we were out there.
But they do like that's more natural.
That's natural sugar.
Yeah, they don't
but, I mean,
process
it's processed.
it. They don't dye it. They don't.
I'm talking about the white, the sugar that they're going to put in soda, sports drinks, the teas. You see that a lot. People
Can we also make a side note that artificial sweeteners are really not any better?
Yeah. So I think that they actually could be worse.
Yep.
Because they're tricking your mind into thinking it's sugar, so they're processing it like it is.
Well, your brain or your body.
Right.
Yeah.
So your body's saying, "Hey, we have sugar." It goes to your brain thinking it's going to use it, and now it has this fake sugar, which is not good for your brain.
And it's just a chemical.
And they've also proven that fake sugar does have less calories and carbs and everything else in it. But what it does, because it tricks your brain, now your brain's going, oh my God, we're doing something and we don't have what we need to fuel.
Oh, and
now
then you get extra cravings.
Yeah, so now you have to go eat cookies, crackers, and all that stuff to get what it needs. So yes, soda on its own, not an issue, quote unquote, because it doesn't have the calories, but it makes you go eat more calories. And there is the underlying process. But soda gets to say, oh, it's not us.
Right.
We didn't do it.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing about so diet soda does have calories in it.
Yep.
It says 0 on the can. They pay a fee because they sell more soda. If they say zero, then pay the fee.
Yep.
Okay.
So they're like Potawatomi.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. If they actually listed calories on the soda, they would sell less than the fee cost them. Okay.
So a good movie to watch. Sugar coated.
Yeah,
it's on Netflix. It's on YouTube. You can get it.
That was going to kind of be like one reason I don't love macros, is because chances are the nutrition label is not accurate.
Yep. Nutrition labels can be wrong up to 18%.
But I think that's a different episode.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, we'll get more in depth into it. So let's see the next.
Yeah.
Our next progression, we have basic tracking and measuring.
So this is okay. So. Seafood, eat food, you started cleaning it up a little, you got rid of the sugar, or you got rid of the soda, maybe the junk food you've been eating. So now you actually want to understand how your body uses food. So we have to start putting it into something to figure out what we're actually consuming.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't necessarily trying to hit certain numbers, it's just...
Pen to paper.
Right.
What are we putting in our body?
Figuring out what your daily consumption looks like, which... A lot of people realize it varies day to day, or you have no plan, or one day it's super high, one day you're eating 100 calories.
I think too. I have my health coaching clients. I give them their journal and they write down, but they also get to write down how they feel when they're eating. And I think that just by actually having a track, whether it's MyFitnessPal or in a journal, and put pen to paper, you can't lie to yourself about what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God. Like, I feel like they're like, I didn't want to put the Snickers down because I knew you'd be mad at me.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, you told me I had to be honest. So, like, I forget that I ate that Snickers until I wrote it down. And I think that it opens your eyes to a lot of things about what you're eating and how you feel about what you're eating.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a process. And once you move on from basic tracking and putting pen to paper and actually weighing and measuring food, it's a process, and it's just, it is cumbersome, it is time consuming, but it's worth it, because that's technically how you should be eating. I mean,
I think that
the food labels say this is, if you really look at it, half a muffin is a serving. So,
or even like cups.
Yeah.
Like a cup of something, I mean, can vary. Like, it can be way different than the food label. So that's like measuring like to the gram.
Yep. I have a everyday tablespoons and a measuring cup, and then my scale. I measure out all my food.
Me, Blair, and Robert fight over the scale.
When you try, Dave and I can't eat breakfast at the same time because we're generally in the kitchen and we both have to have our portions. So I'm like, you just eat, I'll wait until you're out of my way, and then I can go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see that with 3 of you in the house. You guys are getting that nutrition on point. I think that if you're going to weigh and measure food, I'm a big proponent of ounces and grams, like you said, versus cups or tablespoons, because I can mount that cup versus like an ounce is an ounce.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe like the first week or two, that's okay, but eventually you need to get to the actual scale.
So then let me ask then, so Jason, why would somebody want to start weighing and measuring the food? So I've gone through, got rid of the seafood, eat food, I've stopped eating sugar, now I'm starting to eat clean. Why would I start weighing and measuring food? It's an extra, it's time consuming. It takes an extra, probably if I was going to cook a meal, maybe an extra 10 minutes, because now I got to weigh and measure. So why is that important?
The reason why we want to do this is because we either have a goal, well, it could be one of 3 things: lose weight, maintain our weight, or increase weight. And so in order to do that, we have to be at a calorie deficit, a calorie neutral, yeah, perfect, or a calorie surplus. And you have no idea if you're hitting those if you're not measuring it.
Yeah.
I will chime in, then I will say that of the members in the gym, probably 90, maybe 80% of people can just learn to eat clean and track their food so they have a general idea of what they're doing. I don't think most people need to weigh and measure.
The thing that I think is the best way to kind of figure out if you're on track for your goal is the mirror test. Look in the mirror. If you like what is happening to your body, you're on the right path.
That's true.
If you don't, then you might need to change something.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that weighing and measuring goes to maybe the more advanced, either athletes, or if you have some sort of goal in mind, like a fitness competition or a weightlifting competition or wedding, and usually weighing and measuring is not a long-term thing.
Right. I was just gonna say, I think it's definitely important. I think everyone should do it for a period of time
To learn about
because then you're gonna understand, okay, what 4 ounces of chicken looks like, what 4 ounces of carbs look like. Because I did it for a few months back in college, and then for the past 8 years, I can just eyeball food, and I know, like, okay, that's about what I need to eat for a meal.
I'll be out to dinner, and my body will get full. Like, that was enough.
Right. So I agree. I don't think you need to do it forever. I think it's very beneficial to do it just to learn it.
Yeah.
And I think, so weighing and measuring food, you're fueling your body. Again, we talked about that, and you want to make sure that you're hitting those numbers because you're trying to either perform or get a specific goal like you mentioned. So then I think also a good thing about tracking or measuring, all that stuff gets us into that concept of I think people have a misconception that I want to lose weight or I want my goal, so I'm going to stop eating or I need to eat less. And then their exercise suffers.
Yeah.
So I see that a lot. It's like when we do a nutrition challenge or we start talking about nutrition, and I sit down with that person. I'm like, well, let's break it down. What do you eat? Take me through a typical day. And it's like I eat, a yogurt in the morning. I'll have maybe a sandwich or a salad for lunch. and then I have a piece of chicken for dinner, and I'm like, oof.
Yeah,
You barely hit 600 calories right there.
And
then
I tell them,
you need to eat, like based on, we start working on macros, and I'm pretty good at it, and I'll be like, okay, well, you should be at probably 2,500 calories, and you're at,
Right.
and they're like, whoa, I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to get fat.
But I will say there's a delicate balance, because I was the other way. I was like, I need to eat more so I can perform
Yeah.
better. So I was eating 3,000 calories a day. My workouts were going great, but I was not losing. My main goal was to lean out, and I wasn't leaning out.
Right. So it's important what your goals are, but I think you should definitely figure out.
There definitely is a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Can I
So
chime in here?
I was going to say you should probably have a
Corian.
coach for this.
Yes, that was what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's either one. If you just want the basics, set up your goal session. Like they're free. We offer them. Set up a goal session.
Yeah, with any one of us, we know what we're doing. We
I love it. I love setting up
We
that.
know what we're doing because we've been there and we failed
Right.
and we learned and went forward.
Well, we also have dealt with how many clients, and we've helped
ourselves.
several people. And I know there's one client who, when we had our first nutrition challenge, and he was telling me about how much he ate, and then I had to get him up to a certain amount of calories, and he was freaking out because he was like, "Oh my God, I don't think that's going to work. I'm going to gain weight." And then he went the opposite way. He actually started losing more because he had actually plateaued. So he was asking me more, and then he joined the nutrition challenge. And then when he was, I think it was deficit of 900 calories, got him up 900 calories, and he actually started losing more.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, but that's definitely Andrew Miller.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
I don't think he'd have a problem with us telling a story.
And if he did, we just gave out his name, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, Andrew.
Because he was afraid of eating.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, eating more is going to help you. And then, he started working out a lot harder. He wasn't like me where I was eating too much. He hit that sweet spot. He was working out way harder. His lifts got higher. And then the weight started falling
So
as well.
this is how I explain it to my clients who are scared to eat more. Two things. One, is what you're doing working? If that's a no, we have to change it.
Right, yeah.
Okay? Because we don't want to keep doing the same thing. We know that's not working. Two, when you eat more, for most of us that are very deficient on our calories, when you eat more, like you just said, you're going to go harder in the workout, you're going to sweat more, you're going to burn more calories initially, but you're also going to continue to burn calories longer after the workout while you try to rebuild the muscles. So that's why you need to eat more, because your body's going to say, okay, I don't need to hold on to this. I'm going to let you have that energy that you need to kick butt in this workout, and then I'm going to shed that extra body fat.
That's true. So I tell people, like, an example of that is when you eat less, your body actually, you'll lose some weight in the beginning, and then it's going to plateau.
It hoards it.
And I tell people, like, your body's like a bear. It's going to go into hibernation. It's going to hold on to everything.
It's afraid that you're not eating enough.
Right.
It's not going to get
so
the
it's just going to hold. It's going to hold everything it can. So everything you're eating, it's just going to store it. It's going into that hibernation mode.
Yeah, because your body needs so many calories a day just to run your brain and run your heart and run your lungs, right? So if you're not hitting those numbers, which a minimum for women is generally 1,500 calories a day, minimum, your body's going to freak out and it's going to say, I'm not having enough food to run your brain, heart, and lungs. So therefore, I'm going to hold on to what you're doing. So if you're eating less than what your basic survival needs, your body's not going to lose fat.
Right. Yep. And then you plateau.
Yep.
And then I tell people, like,
Your workouts suck.
It's like, if you look back in time, your body's built to do that because of winters and when there's not enough food, and when we're hunters and gatherers, that's what happened. So that kind of goes into our next topic of restrictive diets.
My body's really good at holding on to food. I would have survived a lot of winters.
Restrictive diets such as keto. I know a lot of people do that. Whole30 is another one.
Yep. Paleo is a restrictive diet.
Paleo is.
South Beach, like I talked about earlier in the show. So the restrictive diets are just like kind of limiting what you can eat. So let's start with paleo. That's the big one in CrossFit. That's saying you can't eat anything that's processed. So kind of going back to what you said about shopping around the outside of the grocery store, anything in those middle aisles that have like a label on them and they're going to last for weeks on the shelf, that's all processed food.
Or ingredients on the list that you don't know what they are.
Yeah,
like fillers and stuff. They didn't have that 10,000 years ago, so we shouldn't have that now.
Yep.
Keto is limiting the carbs to less than 50 grams per day. basically your brain stops using glucose as energy and uses ketose.
Ketone body.
So
It's a big thing lately.
What
I've
I've
seen a lot
been
of
learning
people
is it's very, very good for your body, but
Limited time.
and it's very, very hard to live with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you can't have any alcohol, you can't have bread, you can't have pasta, you can't have
fruit.
potatoes, so you have to basically limit all your carbohydrates every single day. So if you're fine living on meat and cheese, I guess.
Here's what you just said that was intriguing. So you said keto is very hard to live with. I think anything that is a diet is hard to live with.
Yeah.
We have to understand that diet means that it's a limited time, and once I'm done, I can do whatever I want. And there's where people fail. Keto is great, like you said, just whatever you were doing at the very beginning of your nutrition. You lost 50 pounds, but you didn't just 100% go back to what you were doing after that. So we have to understand that it is a short time to kick our body into gear. And then we have to then eat healthy and clean after that.
And that's why I don't like restricted diets or or the Whole30. You go these 30 days and you're restricting yourself, and then it's like, all right, I lost all that weight, and then, like you said, you're going to go back to whatever you were doing. Whereas I like paleo or changing, because I think that's just, you can sustain it, something you can go for long term.
There's certain
paleo
levels
isn't really
of paleo.
a diet.
There's some paleo that's like you can't have
Legumes,
any
peanut butter,
you can't have starches, and that's kind of
rice.
like I have oatmeal every single day.
Right.
I have red potatoes and sweet potatoes every single day. Like you can have that stuff.
Yeah. Only if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
for a
That's
long
true.
time, I didn't. But now that I'm tracking, I'm kind of introducing that back into my body.
And I think that a lot of it goes back to what we've said a million times, is you got to find what works for you. I find that I have a nice balance between, I can have oatmeal, I do it like 2 to 3 times a week, and I'm an addict for Birch Bender waffles. They're like the best thing in the world. But I have 1 4-ounce waffle in my mini waffle maker.
That's the key.
Yeah.
I don't have 5 cups of oatmeal.
Well,
I have a half a cup. It's not a lot, but I can have it. Or you can have a waffle every morning.
And if you're
assuming
tracking,
it's
you
good
know
stuff.
that a half a cup of oatmeal is quite a bit of carbs.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, so.
And I think that goes along with like just tracking, write it down, finding what works for you, and find that balance. Because if you told me, okay, Corian, for the next 6 weeks, you're not going to eat these waffles, guess what I'm thinking about for the next 6 weeks?
Yeah.
How much I want a waffle.
Waffles.
But now I've cut it down to where I have once or twice, or maybe max 3 times a week. I'm happy, I'm satiated, I'm losing weight, like, it's fine.
Yeah, and
I don't feel
that's
restricted.
so restricting. I usually tell people, like, you have to find how your body reacts to food too. One thing that I kind of forgot to mention maybe in the beginning of my life journey was I used to get migraines probably 3 to 4 times a week.
Oh yeah, they were so bad.
And then I would wake up every morning nauseous and sick, and I had to eat within 30 minutes, otherwise I was throwing up.
So that's probably just the sugar that you were.
So over time, migraines, I lived on Excedrin migraine and headache medicine.
Yeah.
Dark rooms, cold
Yeah.
My brother
compress.
gets migraine. Well, I don't know if he does anymore, but he used to always get
A
them.
lot of our members
Every
do.
day I was
Yeah.
having headaches, or every other day, and just, debilitating. You couldn't do anything. So learning about eating well, I haven't had a migraine since eating healthy and joining CrossFit since 2015. So I think a lot of those things come from diet.
Yeah.
And Corian can even mention,
Yeah.
she used to have skin rashes, and we thought it was just weather related, or it's during the winter.
People just told me I had eczema. Again, it's a thing. You just live with it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's
And we found out it was dairy that bothered
You're right,
me.
yeah.
Mine is wheat. It really affects me, like crappy wheat. So I thought it was gluten, but I can actually tolerate gluten. It's like shitty gluten, like stuff that's really highly processed. So if let's say we went out tonight, we were going to get a pizza. I could have 1 or 2 pieces, but if I were to have a lot of it, then I would get sick. I would actually wake up nauseous about 2 or 3 a.m.
He can't digest it.
And,
It
and
just
here's
sits
the
there.
thing: we can figure out all the stuff. Like if you can't handle dairy,
Yeah, you cut it
if
out
you
for 30
can't,
days.
right? You just
slowly introduce
Well,
it.
you have to have a perfect diet for 30 days
Yep.
with no variable change, and then introduce it back in.
And it's usually best to have a coach kind of help you with that.
I think one of the best things too is like what Dave said. I know how dairy affects me. I get rashes, my joints swell, I get itchy. It is my choice now whether I eat dairy or not.
Right.
I'm not gonna
Right.
lie. Sometimes it happens.
Yep.
I just know I'm gonna itch later.
So, okay, we had so seafood, eat food, clean eating, basic tracking and
Restrictive
measuring,
diets.
and then we went into restrictive diets, so taking things away.
And now we're going.
With restrictive diet, that's like very specific. Maybe we should have called that specific diets.
Maybe, yeah.
And then advanced. So macros and zone are the big ones, or combo, because you could do like paleo zone.
Which I'm doing.
Right. Advanced, it's advanced because there's there's math involved, there's calculations. You can't just eat your meals, you have to plan everything ahead of time. So you have to kind of like game plan what your breakfast is, what your lunch is, what your dinner, like all your meals. You kind of have to do it ahead of time so you know if you're going to hit your numbers, whatever they are.
Yeah, so generally you start kind of eating the same thing. So I'll have the same breakfast every day
Yep.
because I know it's balanced. I know how I've done it. I have 2 variations of it so that I can switch it up. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you have to plan it out. You got to have it. And I know, like, okay, I have to eat to hit my 2,700 calories in my day. I have to eat 5 meals. It's too hard to do in 4.
You do not want to end up eating 8 ounces of egg whites at the end
Right,
of your day.
right.
Nothing else.
Yeah, it's hard. Especially if you eat too much fat in the morning and then you have no fat for the rest of the
Right,
day.
so kind of like what Dave said. So I do zone paleo, where I'm like 90% paleo. I have zone bars, which aren't paleo, but everything else is.
Corian's got a guest appearance
Oh.
I'm
here.
sorry.
Odin's here. So I do zone paleo, and kind of like Dave said, like I have to have the exact same thing every day. Otherwise, it's too hard to just say, okay,
about it.
I'm just going to create a meal right now.
Yeah.
It's just too hard. It would probably take me 20 minutes extra prep time. Just okay, I have to sit down. I have to put things into my fitness pal and do all these calculations.
That's where it's nice to have somebody else who does it with you, because Corian and I, when we cook, like I'll be like, I weigh out the chicken first, and then
I'm the sous chef.
I'll tell her, I'm like, she starts entering it into my fitness pal as I'm cooking it.
It's because Dave doesn't know what to pick.
She's
That's
better
a big
with
thing
it.
on we could have a whole episode on my fitness pal.
But she's better with it, so like, we break it down. Okay, 64 ounces of chicken is going in here. And that was the hardest part, I think, was breaking it up into servings.
Yep.
An easy
Yeah.
way we found was if it's 64 ounces of chicken, then we break it down by 1 ounce increments. So when you build it all together, it's
Like, so we
64,
weigh the
64
whole thing.
servings
Okay.
in my fitness pal. So then when I say I'm going to have a serving, how many ounces did I have? So yeah, I'll do my chicken, and then we weigh the whole meal, and it
So
comes
let's
out
say
to,
you ate
let's say it
8
comes out,
ounces of chicken, you had 8 servings.
Yep.
let's say, yeah, it's when I log it. So let's just say the whole meal comes out to, we build it, and then it comes out to 4 pounds. Well, we break that down by 4 pounds, or 16 ounces in a pound, blah, blah, and then each ounce is 1 serving, and then when I log it.
Because we
it's more
found
like
that like I'm not going to eat the same amount as him, so I can't break it into 4 servings because a serving for me is so much food compared to him. And so if we've just found like the total volume was 64 ounces, I can have as many ounces as I want. So that way when you get the end and you have those scraps of just like 3 ounces left, doesn't matter, you can still log it.
Right. Now, the issue I have with macros, we kind of alluded to this before, is that calorie counts they're not correct.
Yes.
They can be off, yep, up to 18%, we said.
Right. So, if you are eating the exact same meal every single day, every single meal, so every single day looks the exact same, then it doesn't matter because that calorie count is going to be constant. So it could be 2,000, it could be 2,500. Well, probably wouldn't be off that much, but it could be like 2,200. It doesn't matter because it's constant every single week.
Right.
Yep.
You can see what's happening either in the mirror or on the scale, and then you can adjust from there. Maybe you need to take it down 100 calories or whatever. If you're doing different meals every single day with different ingredients, chances are, like you could be hitting on MyFitnessPal, you could be hitting 2,200 every single day, but it could be one day is 2,400, one day is 2,100.
And that's why I'm a big proponent of not doing macros either, because I can't eat the same thing. I eat the same thing for breakfast, but after that, like, I need variety in life.
Right.
So what I tell most of my clients is, like, what are you mentally going to sustain? I have one of my 4 clients, she can eat the same thing. She's very much like Dave and you. She's like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me to eat the same thing all the time. Great. I'm going to help you do that. And then I have 3 other clients that are like, after a week, they're like, Corian, I can't eat this food anymore.
Right.
And so I have to break it up into different things. So for them, like you said, it's very hard to count macros because they don't have the time for that. So I'm teaching them a whole different standard.
Man, I love the Tupperware that has like the 2 containers and the big container.
Yep.
You do one full of meat, one full of like a starch, and then the big one full of veggies. I think that's so simple.
We talked about potentially doing that to help
Yeah.
with our
I just
next
tell
nutrition
them
challenge.
more veggies than fruit, and then as much real food as they can. And it's so funny because they're all like, oh my God, like, I'm understanding when I'm hungry and I'm understanding when I'm full. And I'm like, exactly.
And then that, in some of things, wraps up, or it balances out your hormone levels.
Yep.
Yeah.
Balances out your blood sugar. When you're eating healthy and you're eating more fibrous foods, get things in check. Now our blood levels start coming back down. Now, the doctor visits are like, well, you're doing good. Because now when we start going through these progressions and you get all the way through and you start counting your macros and you're balancing that out, that's what your body needs. It needs balance.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said, you start listening to your hunger cues again. A lot of people are so used to American culture is work all day, right? You don't work through your lunch now. If you're done at 5, and you leave at 5, you're not the cool kid at work anymore. Everybody stays late to work. It's like ridiculous. But so we've started to ignore our hunger cues, and that's what a lot of our food is doing, is it's shutting those down. So when you start eating whole foods, real foods, and more balanced foods, your body will tell you when you're hungry, and it will tell you when you're full. And you'll be able to just listen.
Working off the chemicals that you would eat from processed food. That entices you technically to eat more because that's what they want.
Yeah. So
they make money.
I think we're gonna wrap this. I think we're way over our time that we wanted to.
It was a really good conversation.
Are we ever gonna stick to a 15-minute?
So in wrap up, this is something to take away. No matter how, you could have went 3 years eating shit. It only takes 2 good meals to get your blood sugar back to normal.
Yep.
Hey.
So wherever you're at, you can get on track in a day.
Yep, I agree.
So,
right.
Episode 3, nutrition.
All right, guys.
Just eat clean, peeps.
We got a good episode next week, so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Mobility. My thing. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Catch you later.
Thanks for listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit. If you would like further information about our programs, visit www.harborparkcrossfit.com. We hope you'll tune in next time.